Emma Hayes had always known that being a nurse wasn't about money or glamour, was about service, sacrifice, and heart. Still, there were nights when she returned to her tiny apartment, looked at her empty fridge, and felt the weight of her reality pressing down. She was 26 years old, living paycheck to paycheck, drowning in student loans, and saving every dime she could. Her closet was a collection of secondhand scrubs and faded jeans. And though she never let it show on her smiling face, there were times she wished she could just splurge buy a new dress, go out to dinner, live like other women her age. But that wasn't her world. Her world was the sterile hospital hallways, the constant beeping of monitors, the shuffle of exhausted nurses trading shifts. Her world was patients in need, parents with tear-stained faces, and children fighting for their lives. She loved her work, knowing that she made a difference, even if it came at the cost of her own dreams. One evening, after a particularly long shift, Emma stopped by the hospital gift shop. She wasn't there to buy anything, just to window shop the way she sometimes did. The dresses on the racks weren't designer or fancy, but to Emma, they looked beautiful, shimmering with a promise she couldn't reach. She lifted one, a soft navy blue with a modest cut and a ribbon at the waist. She imagined herself wearing it, walking into a room with confidence, being seen not as the poor nurse, but simply as a woman. Checking out the new arrivals? The shop clerk asked, with a kind smile. Emma blushed and carefully returned the dress to the rack. Just looking. She left quickly, her heart twisting with a longing she hated admitting even to herself. She had bills to pay. Dreams like dresses and dates didn't belong to her. That same night, she returned to her patient, 12-year-old Mia Turner. Mia was a bright girl with hazel eyes, recovering from a major surgery after months of battling a chronic illness. Her father, Daniel Turner, rarely left her side. He was in his early 30s, a widower who had lost his wife years ago, raising his daughter alone. Emma had seen many parents at the hospital, some distant, some overwhelmed, but Daniel was different. He was steady, gentle, attentive. He read to Mia, braided her hair clumsily when she asked, and never once complained about the hard chair he slept in beside her bed. Evening. Mr. Turner, Emma said softly as she checked Mia's chart. Daniel looked up, tired but warm. Evening, Nurse Hayes. She's been asking when you'd come by. Mia grinned weakly. Emma, can you tell Daddy that my stitches don't hurt anymore? So maybe I can go home tomorrow? Emma chuckled. Nice try, kiddo. But healing takes time, and you know it. No rushing. Daniel smiled at his daughter's antics, then turned his gaze back to Emma. Sometimes she felt his eyes linger, thoughtful, as though he was trying to understand the person behind the uniform. She dismissed it, reminding herself that patients' families were often grateful it didn't mean anything more. Days passed. Emma kept showing up, doing her job with the same quiet dedication. But one afternoon, as she helped Mia with her medication, she overheard a conversation that made her cheeks burn. Daddy, when are you going to go on a date again? Mia asked innocently. Daniel looked startled. A date? Sweetheart, I don't think that's something I need right now. But you're always alone, Mia insisted. Mommy wanted you to be happy. I think she would want you to go out with someone nice. Maybe someone like Emma. Emma froze. Her hands trembled as she pretended to write something on the chart. She didn't dare look at either of them. Daniel cleared his throat. That's not really a conversation we should have in front of Nurse Hayes. But she's right here, Mia said with the blunt honesty of a child. Emma excused herself quickly, her heart racing. The thought of Daniel dating anyone, let alone her, felt absurd. He was a devoted father, probably well off given the way he carried himself, while she was the girl who couldn't afford a new dress. That night, Emma sat at home, replaying Mia's words. She tried to push them away, but the idea of someone seeing her as more than just the poor nurse stirred something fragile inside her. The next week, Mia's condition improved significantly. Discharge papers were being prepared, and soon Daniel and Mia would leave the hospital. On the last evening before their departure, Emma stopped by to check in one final time. Asterisk, looks like you're all set to go home tomorrow, Emma said, forcing a cheerful tone. Asterisk, Mia clapped her hands weakly. Yay, but I'm going to miss you, Emma. Asterisk, I'll miss you too, sweetheart. Asterisk, Daniel stood up, extending his hand. Emma, thank you for everything. You've done more than just care for Maya, you've cared for us both. Asterisk, she shook his hand politely, though she felt a strange warmth in the gesture. It's my job, asterisk. But Daniel didn't let go right away. His voice softened. It's more than a job to you. I can see that. Asterisk, her breath caught. She withdrew quickly, smiling awkwardly, and said her goodbyes. Asterisk, the next evening. After her shift, Emma walked toward the bus stop. She wrapped her worn cardigan tighter around herself. The streetlights flickered, and the chill of night bit through her scrubs. She thought she was alone until a familiar voice called her name. Asterisk, Emma. Asterisk, she turned. Daniel stood there, wearing a clean shirt and holding a small bag. Asterisk, Mr. Turner? What are you doing here? She asked, startled. Asterisk, he smiled sheepishly. First, it's Daniel. Second, I wanted to see you. Mia insisted I come. Asterisk, Emma blinked, confused. See me? Why? Asterisk, he hesitated, then pulled something out of the bag. It was the navy blue dress she had admired in the hospital shop. Her heart stopped. Asterisk, I saw you looking at it, Daniel said gently. You didn't think anyone noticed, but I did. And Mia. Well, she's been telling me I should ask you this. Emma, would you be my first date? Since losing my wife? Asterisk, Emma's throat closed. Tears pricked her eyes. No one had ever done something like this for her. She wanted to say yes, but fear tugged at her. She thought of her bills, her plain life, the cruel gap between them. Asterisk, I can't, she whispered. You don't understand. I don't have the kind of life you think I do. Asterisk, Daniel stepped closer, his eyes steady. I don't care about that. I just see you, the woman who stayed up with my daughter when I couldn't keep my eyes open. The woman who cared when she didn't have to. That's who I want to know. That's who I want to take out. Asterisk, Emma's tears slipped free. She held the dress against her chest, trembling. Part of her wanted to run. Part of her wanted to believe. Asterisk, for the first time in years. She wondered if maybe, just maybe, life had something beautiful in store for her too. Asterisk. Emma stood there beneath the streetlight, clutching the dress like it was the most fragile thing in the world. Her chest rose and fell as she tried to make sense of the moment. She had lived so long with her guard up, with survival as her only goal, that the idea of someone seeing her felt foreign, almost impossible. And yet here was Daniel, steady, sincere, asking not for perfection, not for pretense, but simply for her company. Asterisk, I don't know what to say, she murmured. Asterisk, say yes, Daniel answered softly. Say yes, and let me prove that you deserve more than working yourself to exhaustion and walking home in the cold. Asterisk. Emma hesitated, fear still clinging to her ribs, but the warmth in his eyes slowly melted it away. All right, she whispered. Yes. Asterisk, Daniel's smile was quiet, but filled with relief. Tomorrow night, I'll pick you up. Nothing fancy, just dinner. Asterisk, Emma nodded, her fingers trembling against the fabric of the dress. She walked home that night in a daze, the bag pressed to her chest. In her tiny apartment, she unfolded the dress carefully, laying it across her bed as though it were spun from gold. She stood before the mirror, holding it up against herself. For the first time in years, she let herself imagine not being the invisible nurse, but simply a woman, someone worth taking out, worth cherishing. Asterisk, the next day at work dragged endlessly. Emma's coworkers noticed her distracted smiles, but she brushed off their questions. When her shift finally ended, she hurried home, bathed, and carefully slipped into the navy dress. It fit perfectly, as though it had been waiting for her all along. She borrowed a little makeup from her neighbor and twisted her hair into a simple bun. When she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. The woman staring back was softer, radiant, almost hopeful. Asterisk at exactly 7, there was a knock at her door. Emma's heart raced as she opened it to find Daniel standing there, looking almost as nervous as she felt. He wore a crisp button-down shirt, and his smile faltered slightly as his eyes traveled over her. Asterisk, you look beautiful, he said, his voice low. Asterisk Emma flushed, lowering her gaze. Thank you. You don't look bad yourself. Asterisk, he offered his arm, and for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to feel like a lady instead of just a nurse. Asterisk. Daniel didn't take her to a fancy restaurant with glittering chandeliers and menus she couldn't pronounce. Instead, he drove her to a small family-owned Italian place tucked away on a quiet street. The kind of place where candles flickered on checkered tablecloths, and the scent of garlic bread filled the air. Asterisk. I thought this would be better than something pretentious, Daniel explained as they were seated. This was my wife's favorite spot, and I think she'd be glad I brought someone kind here. Asterisk Emma blinked, surprised at his openness. Are you sure you're ready for this? Asterisk Daniel's gaze softened. I wasn't. For years I couldn't even imagine it. But then you walked into Mia's room. You made her laugh when she was in pain. You made me feel like I wasn't carrying the world alone. You reminded me what it's like to breathe again. So yes, I'm ready. Asterisk Emma's eyes stung, but she smiled through it. I didn't do anything special. I just did my job. Asterisk not to us, Daniel said firmly. To us, you were hope. Asterisk the evening unfolded gently, without the pressure Emma feared. They talked about everything, her love for books she never had time to read, his struggles as a single father, Mia's silly sense of humor. Daniel listened intently, not once glancing at his phone, not once making her feel small. For Emma, it felt like the world had slowed, letting her exist in a bubble of warmth she didn't want to end. As they shared dessert, a slice of tiramisu, Anya leaned back, studying her quietly. Can I confess something? Asterisk Emma raised an eyebrow. Depends on what it is. Asterisk he chuckled. I was terrified you'd say no. I kept telling myself it was ridiculous to ask. You're younger, beautiful, with your whole life ahead of you. Why would you waste your time on a single dad who spends more evenings in hospitals than restaurants? Asterisk Emma set her fork down, her heart tightening. Daniel, I'm the one who felt unworthy. I couldn't even afford this dress. I thought I'd never be someone you'd notice outside the hospital. Asterisk his expression shifted, tender and serious. He reached across the table, his hand brushing hers. Emma, don't you see? That's exactly why. You're real. You're not chasing money or status. You care. And that's worth more than anything. Asterisk her throat closed, and she had to look away to hide the tears threatening to fall. No one had ever said words like that to her. Asterisk after dinner, Daniel drove her home, but neither of them wanted the night to end. They lingered in the car, talking, laughing softly. At one point, the laughter faded, leaving only a silence heavy with something unspoken. Daniel leaned slightly closer, searching her eyes. But he didn't push. Asterisk, I'd like to see you again, he said instead. Asterisk, Emma nodded, her voice barely a whisper. I'd like that too. Asterisk the weeks that followed were unlike anything Emma had known. Daniel called her, sometimes just to hear her voice. He invited her to the park with Mia, where they fed ducks and laughed at Mia's dramatic storytelling. Emma found herself slowly woven into their world. A place filled with love and possibility. Asterisk yet doubt still lingered in her heart. She wondered when reality would catch up, when Daniel would realize she was just a nurse who struggled to make rent, not someone who could fit into his life long term. The fear of being left behind haunted her, making her cautious, even as her feelings for him grew deeper. Asterisk, one evening, after another long shift, Emma found herself back at Daniel's house. Mia had insisted Emma come over for movie night. They sprawled on the couch, popcorn bowls scattered around, laughter echoing through the living room. For the first time in years, Emma felt like she belonged to something bigger than herself. Asterisk when Mia finally fell asleep halfway through the film. Daniel carried her gently to bed. Emma stayed on the couch, fiddling with the hem of her dress, her mind whirling. Asterisk when Daniel returned, he sat beside her, quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice low and earnest. "Emma, I know you're holding back. I can see it. You smile, but your eyes, they're afraid." Asterisk, she swallowed hard. "Because this feels like a dream, and dreams don't last for people like me." Asterisk Daniel took her hand, firm and reassuring. "Emma, listen to me. I don't care if you live in a mansion or a one-room apartment. I don't care if you wear designer clothes or the same pair of scrubs every day. What I care about is the way you make Mia feel safe, the way you make me feel alive again. That's real. That's what matters." Asterisk, her tears finally broke free, rolling down her cheeks. She tried to turn away, but he gently guided her face back to him. "Don't run from this. Don't run from me." Asterisk, in that moment, something in Emma's chest gave way. She leaned forward, closing the space between them. And when Daniel's lips met hers, it was gentle, patient, filled with the promise of new beginnings. Asterisk, the kiss wasn't fireworks or fairy tales, it was something stronger. It was healing. Asterisk, from that night on, Emma stopped fighting the what-ifs. She allowed herself to believe, to hope, to love, and as weeks turned into months, their bond only deepened. She was no longer just the nurse who couldn't afford a dress. She was the woman who had found a family, a home, and a love that didn't measure her by what she lacked, but by who she truly was. Asterisk Emma Hayes, once invisible, had become someone's first date, someone's hope, someone's future. Asterisk, and for the first time, she knew she was exactly where she belonged.